So Matt, I think the last time you were on, we talked specifically about, in Orleans, you were looking at or considering like the 15-minute commute and kind of 15-minute communities and so on. We've seen light rail obviously have massive advancements since we last spoke. I think they were just starting like the Montreal Road station when you're on last. So obviously a lot has been done. So very broadly, we can dig into some deeper things, but like what's new in Orleans as far as like the real estate front, and what sort of changes are you seeing there?
Yeah, for sure. So we finished the Orleans secondary plan, the economic corridor study that I think that we went into pretty decent depth last time, and we updated our community improvement plan. So I believe that secondary plans and community improvement plans should kind of work hand in hand. So you've got your carrot and your stick, right? So your stick is like permissibility. It's a secondary plan being a part of the official plan, doing designations as to like what the city wants to see for growth in an area, whether that's infill or greenfield. And then the CIP provides a tax incentive to achieve that, right? And so, what a CIP does is, you improve your property based on a list of criteria that the city's looking at. So let's say you've got like the old, I don't want to pick on a specific business, but think of like the old like Masconi's or whatever, which is now like a tire changers on St. Joseph Boulevard, right? It's at the back of the property. There's a lot of concrete and asphalt in front. And so what the city's looking to do is to have businesses, move to the street front, build some housing above it, like you see on a traditional main street. And so, if you check all these boxes, you get it approved. And then what the city will do is actually grant you back a portion of the differential in your property taxes. So let's say, your property taxes were, say $100,000 a year, which is a bit outrageous, I would say, but and now you're assessed at $100,000 a year, and now you're assessed at $1 million. So what they'll do is they'll essentially grant you back a little more to start, and then less over time, just to make it so that you can reinvest in your business and give you an incentive to do that work. The tax uplift is always there, so the city always makes more, and you get some of that back, and it's almost like a thank you for improving your business and contributing to the economy. Now, unfortunately, the new mayor, when he came in, promised during the election to look at this, because obviously some businesses that may be slightly controversial, end up able to access this. And, I think that probably the best example of that was during the last term in the Montreal Road CIP, a Porsche dealership was able to access this. Now, it's not necessarily that's what the land is used for. It's a local company that owns this franchise. And in my opinion, any sort of tax uplift and street beautification is good. However, it was pretty controversial, and so they wanted to take a look at that program. Now, unfortunately, I think they've taken a one-size-fits-all solution to this issue. I think that the reason why the Orleans CIP has been particularly generous in the past is because we haven't seen the same sort of economic development in the East End as we've seen in the South and the West. And so I'm a bit disappointed with what they've come back with, but we can get into that later when we talk about what the city can be doing to ensuring that to ensure that we are meeting our housing goals. But so that's a little bit disappointing, although I'm pleased that we now have our secondary plan in place. So what's coming up? So we've had quite a few applications come in, some of them slightly more controversial than others. One of them being the redevelopment of the Orleans YWCA. Big loss to our community to lose that space. And, I fought really hard to get Merrick Palmer and the Capitol Courts Academy into that gym space. We don't have a whole lot of gym space that's not in schools in the East End. Like, think of like your local gyms, your local, gyms like Francois Dupuis has a basketball court, but the other two in Orleans don't.
Yeah. I mean, growing up playing sports, you're always playing at, L'Oreal or one of these high schools, right? That's where your out of school sports are always at high schools.
For sure. And I mean, with the pandemic, there was less access to those schools. So having, these public spaces is really important. So, I bemoan the loss of that space once they do redevelop, but it will be good to have more density near transit. So they're looking at, a couple of quite tall towers are going to require an official plan amendment and a secondary plan amendment to get the heights that they're looking for. at the corner of Centrum, so just down the street, Centrum and Place d'Orleans Boulevard. Group Maurice is coming in with 2 towers and a podium of independent seniors living. So that's good. People want to be able to age in the community that they, that they grew up in and the community that they raised their kids in. I did Meals on Wheels a couple of winters ago and met with a lovely elderly lady. Her husband had passed away. Her kids had moved out. She was living in a 5-bedroom home in Fallingbrook. And I asked her, this must be really difficult to keep up. Why not move on? And, so a younger family can move into the neighborhood. And she said, well, Matt, like there's no rentals. There's no rentals in Orleans. So, I'd love to sell my home and I've built up this nest egg, but I can't stay in my community and I don't want to move to the West. So, that's good. I'm glad that's moving along. Another interesting project is one that's being proposed, kind of just on the at the mouth, going down onto Petrie Island before the causeway. The proposal is 3 larger towers, so within walking distance of the new trim station, which will be great. Although we do need to get some money for a pedestrian bridge there, having people crossing at grade over a 4-lane highway, not exactly ideal, especially if you're bringing your kids down to go swimming. This is something I've been chipping away at and something I've been very frustrated with, frankly, because the federal funding that was offered certainly wasn't enough to help us in any meaningful way. But that they're looking there, and if they can get the city to work with them on transferring or being able to buy a chunk of land that's in a right of way that can actually meet the secondary plan goals, build some public realm there. They're looking at the possibility of a spa. The plans also show an amphitheater, like a privately owned public space for an amphitheater, so we can have concerts. Maybe Organized Rhyme can have we could have a reunion there. That would be kind of cool. I'd open for you acoustic if you want.
So many people watching have no idea what's happening right now or what that means, but I love it that you brought it up.
Organized Rhyme and Hearts of Minds. There
we go. I'd get back together with them.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe because we'd really like that.